Imagine a world starkly different from our own, where the Axis powers, led by Nazi Germany, emerged victorious in World War II. This thought experiment isn't just a flight of fancy, but a deep dive into a world shaped by the triumph of totalitarian ideologies over democracy. It's a chilling scenario that challenges our understanding of freedom, human rights, and global solidarity. In this alternate reality, the effects of a Nazi victory extend far beyond the borders of Germany, influencing every aspect of global politics, economy, and daily life. By exploring this hypothetical situation, we can better appreciate the fragility of our own timeline and the importance of the historical outcomes we often take for granted. This exploration is based on historical possibilities and is not an endorsement of the ideologies or atrocities committed under Nazi rule. It serves as a speculative examination of what could have been, helping us to better understand the importance of the actual historical events. With the hypothetical victory of Nazi Germany, National Socialism would have replaced democracy as the dominant political ideology worldwide. This shift would mean a global governance structure centered around authoritarian principles, with strict control over individual freedoms and a focus on nationalist and racial purity doctrines. The implications for political systems worldwide would be profound and disturbing. Countries influenced or controlled by Germany would likely adopt similar governmental structures, leading to a decrease in political diversity and an increase in systemic oppression. This governance model would prioritize state interests over individual rights, stifling dissent and freedom of expression. Democratic institutions as we know them would be dismantled or severely altered. The triumph of National Socialism would also signify a major ideological shift in global politics. The values of openness and democratic governance would be viewed not as virtues, but as weaknesses. This new norm would redefine human rights, potentially erasing decades of progress in the pursuit of global equality and justice. In this alternate scenario, a Nazi victory in WTO would likely lead to the establishment of a new global order dominated by a Berlin-Rome-Tokyo axis. This tripartite would wield unprecedented power, dividing the world into spheres of influence that suppress any opposition to their rule. The geopolitical landscape would be characterized by a stark division between the Axis powers and the subjugated nations. This new order would enforce rigid economic and political agreements favoring the Axis, ensuring their continued dominance. International relations would be governed by these powers, with little room for neutrality or non-alignment. The global community as we know it, with its international organizations promoting cooperation and peace, would likely never have come into being. Moreover, the Axis powers would implement a harsh regime of control over their territories, possibly leading to widespread human rights abuses and a suppression of cultural diversity. The world would see an increase in forced labor, genocide, and other atrocities as tools of state policy, deeply affecting global demographics and societal structures. The global economy under Nazi rule would be drastically different. The emphasis would likely be on militarization and industrial expansion to support the Axis's needs. Autarky, or economic self-sufficiency, would be a key goal, pushing countries under Nazi influence to become resource independent, which would dramatically alter trade patterns and economic relations internationally. Nazi economic policies such as the extensive use of slave labor and the looting of occupied territories would become the norm. This would create an economy heavily reliant on exploitation and theft, leading to significant disparities in wealth and living conditions. Countries rich in resources might experience short-term booms, followed by long-lasting devastation due to unsustainable exploitation. Lastly, the triumph over capitalist democracies would mean a suppression of free market principles. The state would control all major industries and private enterprise would be limited or co-opted by the government. This would stifle innovation and limit economic freedom, leading to inefficiencies and widespread poverty among those not favored by the regime. Geographic redraw, the New World Map. The victory of Nazi Germany would have led to a dramatic redraw of world geography. Borders would be reshaped according to the whims of the Axis powers, often disregarding historical, ethnic, or cultural considerations. New countries might emerge while others could be wiped off the map entirely. For instance, Eastern Europe would likely see the most drastic changes, with large parts of it possibly incorporated directly into the Greater German Reich. This expansion would be justified through aggressive policies of Lebensraum, or living space, aimed at providing land for the German populace at the expense of local populations. In Asia, Japan's sphere of influence would expand significantly, altering the boundaries and political landscapes of China, Korea, and Southeast Asia. The Pacific would essentially become a Japanese lake, with islands and territories realigned to benefit Tokyo's imperial ambitions. Life under the swastika daily existence. Daily life in a world dominated by Nazi Germany would be regulated and controlled to an extreme degree. The state would dictate many aspects of personal life, from education and employment to leisure and family planning. Propaganda would be rampant, with the Nazi ideology infiltrating all forms of media and public discourse to maintain control over the populace. Racial policies would play a significant role in daily interactions and social structures. Racial purity tests might become routine, affecting everything from marriage to job opportunities. Non-Aryans and those deemed undesirable by the state would face severe discrimination or worse, leading to a highly segregated society with rampant human rights abuses. Despite the oppressive regime, human resilience and ingenuity would likely find ways to adapt. Underground movements, black markets, and informal networks might emerge as means of survival and resistance. These small acts of defiance would maintain a sense of hope and solidarity among oppressed groups, challenging the monolithic control of the Nazi state. Culture and propaganda. In this alternate reality, culture and the arts would serve the state, primarily used as tools for propaganda and indoctrination. Literature, films, music, and art would be heavily censored, promoting Nazi ideals and vilifying any form of dissent. This cultural manipulation would help solidify Nazi control, shaping public perception and attitudes according to government mandates. Educational systems would be restructured to prioritize ideological education over critical thinking. Children would be indoctrinated from a young age through Hitler Youth-like organizations designed to breed loyalty to the state and readiness for military service. Higher education would be limited to those conforming to racial and ideological purity standards, severely impacting intellectual freedom and development. However, despite these controls, underground cultural movements might still flourish, preserving forbidden ideas and artworks. These clandestine networks would keep the spirit of free thought alive, challenging the state's narrative and offering a beacon of hope to those suffocated by the oppressive cultural policies. Technological and scientific advancements under a Nazi regime would likely focus on military and industrial applications. Research in areas like rocketry, nuclear physics, and synthetic materials would be prioritized to maintain the regime's dominance. This could potentially lead to an early development of advanced weaponry, including nuclear arms, affecting global security dynamics. However, the exclusion of certain groups from scientific endeavors, based on racial or ideological grounds, would stifle broader innovation. The expulsion of Jewish scientists and intellectuals, as seen historically during the Nazi regime, would deprive the world of their contributions, delaying advancements in various fields like physics, medicine, and the humanities. Environmental science would likely suffer under Nazi rule, with industrial expansion and warfare taking precedence over ecological concerns. Large-scale projects with significant environmental impacts could be undertaken without regard to long-term sustainability, leading to widespread ecological degradation and possibly exacerbating global environmental crises. The ecological footprint of a victorious Nazi regime would be enormous. Driven by industrial expansion and territorial conquests, significant environmental degradation would occur. Forests, rivers, and natural landscapes would often be sacrificed for military and industrial needs, leading to loss of biodiversity and disruption of ecosystems. Pollution would increase dramatically due to the emphasis on heavy industry and lack of environmental regulations. Air and water quality would degrade, affecting public health and reducing the quality of life for many under Nazi rule. Large-scale projects, like the draining of wetlands and massive deforestation for agricultural expansion, would further exacerbate environmental issues. In response, small-scale environmental preservation efforts might emerge as acts of resistance. These initiatives, while limited in scope, would represent an attempt to safeguard natural heritage and maintain ecological balance in the face of widespread exploitation and destruction. Despite the oppressive nature of Nazi rule, resistance movements would inevitably arise. Discontent with authoritarian governance and violations of human rights would fuel underground networks committed to overthrowing the regime. These groups would engage in sabotage, dissemination of anti-Nazi propaganda, and coordination with any remaining free nations. The harshness of the regime's policies would likely make these resistance movements diverse, drawing support from a wide range of social groups. From intellectuals and former military personnel to oppressed minorities and disenfranchised workers, a broad coalition could form, united in their desire for freedom and justice. International support for these resistance movements would be crucial. Remaining democratic nations, if any, and exiled governments might provide material support and asylum to rebels. This external assistance could be vital in sustaining the resistance and possibly, in the long term, helping to restore freedom and democracy to the oppressed regions. Exploring the hypothetical scenario of a Nazi victory in World War II allows us to reflect on the importance of the actual historical outcomes. It emphasizes the value of democracy and the continuous need for vigilance in preserving freedom and human rights. This thought experiment serves not only as a reminder of the horrors that were averted, but also as a call to action to prevent such ideologies from ever gaining ground again. While this exploration is rooted in historical possibilities, it is a stark illustration of how different the world could be under alternate circumstances. It underscores the significance of historical events and decisions that shaped our current reality, and it highlights the ongoing struggle between oppressive ideologies and the ideals of freedom and equality. In conclusion, while it is intriguing to ponder what if, it is also crucial to learn from history and ensure that such dark chapters are never repeated. This speculative journey through an alternate history is a powerful reminder of the resilience of the human spirit and the enduring fight for a just and equitable world.